I think so. I'm sure we'll have more joining and some people that need to leave, but welcome to another virtual bus tour, joint project of United Way and the Central Minnesota Community Foundation. Since the spring, we've been highlighting our COVID relief efforts and the needs and opportunities in the community. Carol?
Yes, I'm Carol Turnell with the Central Minnesota Community Foundation. And we're excited I think this is our third or fourth virtual tour. So it looks a little bit different, but we're excited because used to be when we did the bus, we could only have 44, 45 people max. This way we've been able to add so many more people, and it's been great to be able to have all of you on the bus with us today. We have 3 nonprofits that we're going to meet and learn about. We have the Higher Works Collaborative and Homeless Helping Homeless. And then we're going to hear from the Tri-County Humane Society. Each of them has a unique story about what COVID has done and social distancing has done to change their nonprofit. So we'll hear a little bit about what it was like before and what it's like now. So let's get rolling, Daniel. Where's our first stop?
That's great, Carol. We're going to the center of St. Cloud, and we're going to meet with Buddy King and Pastor James Alberts of Higher Works Collaborative. Welcome, Pastor Alberts and Buddy.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. Welcome to your first stop on your virtual bus tour. Welcome to Higher Works Collaborative, where we are actively working and engaged inside of our community. We are thankful to be here, and we are looking forward to having a wonderful time with you.
And I'm just going to say all that stuff he said. Yep.
Thank you. I'm going to let Carol ask some questions, but I forgot to say, for those of you on the bus, in the top right corner of your screen, you want to click on speaker view. That'll take you away from the gallery and to each of our stops here. Also, please put any questions you have for our guests or for our moderators into the chat, and we'll try to get to them as we have time. Thank you.
Great. Well, let's get started. Reverend James and Buddy, we'd love to hear first about Higher Works Collaborative and what your mission is, how long you've been around, and then how this COVID has impacted your work. What's changed for you?
Well, I think I'll take a shot at that. Higher Works Collaborative is an extension of a ministry that we started at Higher Ground Church of God in Christ, where I am the pastor of. About 4 years ago, Higher Works split off to become its own 501c3 in order to take advantage of the opportunities and to widen our reach into our community. Higher Works Collaborative believes in a holistic approach to providing services and programming, and was born out of a need to help people right here, right where they are. When we found that if you ask the right questions, you can quickly find out more than just the basics. And so one of the things that we know is that when you're helping people, it is never just about them having one problem. Chances are they're telling you about one, but they have several other problems or several other things that are connected to that. And so our approach is to come at it multiple ways and be able to apply the experiences and the expertise that we have as African-American leaders inside of our community. And when we look at this, our mission is to bring that holistic approach that bridges the gaps and meets the needs of our Black, Indigenous, and people of color community.
Buddy, do you want to add anything?
I think he's doing a good job of doing it all. But the way we're being innovative, I think I just want to, we're really trying this, that we're really utilizing our holistic approach. We're really utilizing, so we're not just working with an individual, but we're actually working with the individual and their family, so the environment, so that we are working with the whole environment so that we can create the change that's needed for forward progress.
Great. So one thing I'm wondering about is as you look at COVID hopefully being in the rearview mirror in 6 months or so. I'm knocking on wood now on that. What do you see as changes that you made that you'll keep? What do you see as changes that you'd want to make going forward?
Well, I would take a stab at this first. So we've learned a lot over the last 6 or 8 months. We've gotten really good at a few things that we struggled at, and then some things we had to figure out how to get more creative. So how do you still meet with people? How do you still meet people in crisis situations, and still try to work through all of the COVID and CDC guidelines? How do you do these things? There is the need in the community does not change because we're in a pandemic. It only worsens, actually. And how do we create a space and create a time so that we can be still just as relevant to our community, to the ones who need us, but yet still find ways to be more creative and be more innovative and think more outside the box, because the way the world was pre-COVID is not the way the world is now post-COVID. And I think that, and Alberts had already mentioned this in his opening, our holistic approach. This is what makes us innovative, right? Our holistic approach to providing services and programming was born out of the need to help people right where they are. That's exactly what he was talking about. And I'm gonna turn it over to him so he can get into some of our vision and our mission and kind of talk about our 6 pillars of who we are as a program.
Great.
So our vision is to advance the life and the lifestyles of Black Americans and other underrepresented communities in areas of transportation, education, housing, employment, health and wellness, and the arts. Now that sounds like a mouthful, but we have a way of being able to approach that, and that's our mission. And when we look at what our mission is to bring that we're going to hear that word holistic. That bridges those gaps to meet the needs. And that bridge is the operative word there, because what we want to do is bring people and resources together. A lot of the organizations that are even represented on this call right now have resources, but they are not necessarily able to reach out to the community that they seek to help. And we want to bring that to the table. The most innovative part of our whole organization you're looking at right now, Buddy and I and the others that work on our team are a team of individuals who are in themselves are part of that same community. And we bring that expertise when we bring that experience to the table as well. Our 6 pillars these are things, this is a master class in what a community needs in order to be not just sufficient, but also to be self-actualized as well. Education is the bedrock of everything that you might do, and you need that in order to be able to advance yourself. But if someone comes to us and tells us that they are missing, that they're having a hard time finding a job, chances are there's an educational challenge that's there. There's a transportation challenge that is in there as well. And so we've identified 6 areas of life that will affect the people that we seek to work with. Education being one of the hallmarks of those, housing, transportation, the arts. And when we think about housing, we think about, we're not just talking about homelessness, because that's really where we start, but the operative way that we want to work with this is we want to go from homelessness to home ownership. And we take into consideration the statistics that are real in Minnesota for people of color not being able to own a home at the same rate as their white counterparts, and all of the things that go along with it, from credit counseling all the way over to financial representation as well. So, and each one of our pillars have a bedrock of research that has gone on from there. So from there, let's talk a little bit more about education. I'm gonna hand this over to Buddy, and he's got specific examples that he can work us through.
So the education, I'm gonna talk specifically about our Distance Learning Academy, which is one of the things that we have started here recently within the last 2 months. And it came out of a need from COVID from from the last school year, and recognizing the distance learning, the gap that was happening between the kids, the lack of kids logging in, the parents not being able to help and participate, and just, it was really hard. So we had all these conversations throughout the summer. And so we decided that it was time for us to really bunker down, and how can we create a space where people can have these conversations and that these students can get these helps. So you will notice, and you can go to the next slide, you will notice that in these, we have, we figured out how to do this the smart way, be CDC appropriate. We see we're wearing masks, but the thing I love the most about this is that we have students that look like our students that are willing to help. So we have a group of students from St. Cloud State who has come in, a group of women of color who is, because we're more than just a tutoring program. We are also a mentoring program. So we want to do some tutoring. That's how we start with, right? Get your education together. But at the same time, let's give you some life skills. Let's give you some things that you can work through. You can go to the next slide. And so those are the things that's important for us. Another piece that we're working with, and James has kind of already talked about this in the housing. Again, we go from, our goal is from homelessness to home ownership. This particular person, go to the next slide. This particular, what we're talking about is this individual, this family has, you go to the next slide, had the home ownership piece, but was missing the other resources and ran into a traumatic experience and wasn't able to reach resources around town. Came and found us, or was sent to us, and we have been able to send other resources there. So we can, you saw the first picture, and that's the last picture, who had a burnt kitchen. And so now this is what it looks like, right? So finding ways to bring these stories together. You can go to the next slide. The last thing that we do, another program that we're working on is with our youth, and really trying to get them to be culturally connected, right? To how do they stay involved? So we went down to the Minneapolis Institute of Art. You can go to the next page, next slide. We went down to the Minneapolis Institute of Art, and we had a in-depth conversation about painting, about cultural understanding. So the students, you see the one guy with the white, with the white piece, that's the talking piece. But the students was being engaged, talking about how do we get into understanding what these pictures amount. So what you don't see or what you don't hear was they was talking about, for example, why the colors was chosen, what was chosen, why was those things done, what was done. So really just understanding and being part of their particular culture. And you can go to the next slide. And this is the things that we are trying to accomplish. And I'm going to pass it back to James so he can kind of talk about what our goal is here as we prepare for 2021-22.
So we've had some fairly aggressive goals coming into 2020 or 2020 itself. Much of that was thrown out the window the minute COVID hit. And so now moving into 2021, after we've recalibrated and gotten ourselves a little more acclimated to what we're doing and understanding what it is that we need to be able to do, we've established for ourselves another set of aggressive goals. And we want to move into what we have as our phase 4 of our organization. Right now, all the work that we are doing and that you see us doing and all the work you don't see us doing is 100% voluntary. And so Buddy and I are, and the other teams are working at a very donated rate at being able to do this. And so we want to try and maintain the intensity that we're using in order to do this work. So we want to be able to move to full-time employment for some of these individuals. We still need more classroom space that's dedicated, computers and hardware, so that we can round out the offerings that we have. And we want to be able to continue to work the maintenance and the development of our innovative programming so that we can continue to do the things that we need to do. We're innovative because we have to be. We're innovative because we need to be. This Black entrepreneur, social entrepreneurship that you see happening in front of you is indicative of only what we want to see happen for a lot of other people and a lot of other things that they're doing. So with that, I think we only have one more slide after that. And that's the team that's there, myself, Buddy, and my beautiful wife that's not available to be on the phone with us right now, but that's our team. And that's also our time. So thank you very much.
Perfect.
So Buddy and Pastor Elwich, thanks so much. We love to see the holistic approach because we know families in crisis and living in poverty and facing education barriers, there's not one simple fix for them. We've also heard a lot about the need for devices, for internet, to solve the delivery gap during COVID. But we also know it's not just about that education. Can you speak to what kids are coming to you as far as social emotional needs during this time of isolation and loneliness?
Sure, I'll take 30 seconds and tell you that that tutoring program that you see us holding, there are children that are desperately trying to get to the tutoring program, and not so much for the fact that they want to come and watch me work algebra problems out on the board, even though I love working on my magic board up there. But there's an opportunity for socializing. When we bring those children in, we feed them. They get meals. There was some clothes that were up there in the back from a program that we were doing to make sure that they still were getting some of the needs that they have, but also too, they're developing friendships there as well. So when they come and they talk to us, the mentoring aspect is they get buddy, they get me, they get other adults that we also have volunteering their time to be able to talk to us about some of the problems that they may be dealing with, both at home while they're social distancing, as well as what they're dealing with from the school aspect as well. And so there's a whole host of things, and Higher Works Collaborative has been working really hard to establish relationships at the county, at the city, and at the school district level to be able to build more bridges to help each and every one of these children.
And Daniel, I'll just take 15 seconds and say that, in that a lot of our kids, they come there for tutoring, and they get the help, but then when it's done, what you realize is they really get social with each other, right? And it turns into something a little bit more, and they open up books, they talk about this, they talk about that, they talk about home life, they talk about whatever, and it's just amazing. And I'm talking about the kids and the kids and the kids and the adults, and it's all just one big, great conversation. So that is how we know that the need is there. They love being there. They love the social. They get tired of sitting at home and just talking to everybody on the computer. So it's nice to have some actual human interaction.
Thank you so much. Any more questions from you, Carol?
No, just thanks for what you do for our community. It's so inspiring to hear.
Thank you, Buddy and Pastor Edwards. We know you've been amazing youth workers, reaching such a large portion of our kids for decades in St. Cloud. We know you've helped with the community policing agreement, among many other community-led initiatives. Thank you for your leadership and your tireless effort. And we do hope the community will support you as you go forward in this endeavor. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Well, Carol, I think seeing Higher Works Collaborative was kind of a nice fit compared to our very first virtual tour this spring, when we talked about the mental health center and the isolation and loneliness and challenges everyone's facing during this time, both seniors and youth and everyone in between. During that trip, we also visited Friends to Neighbors, a grassroots organization helping people fight homelessness and get a roof over their heads and some food in their bellies. There's another innovative program that developed in the community in the last year or so called Homeless Helping Homeless. And we're now going to head to Lake George to meet Harry Flegel and Mary Flegel with Homeless Helping Homeless. Welcome, Harry and Mary.
So Harry and Mary, we would love to hear from you about when you formed Homeless to Homeless and why, what inspired you to do that. And then just fill us in about what your mission is.
Sorry, it took us a little bit to get unmuted.
That's all right.
The Homeless Helpless Homeless started about 2 years ago. Mary and I were volunteering over at the Place of Hope, and we in the overflow area where the people came in just to spend the night. And in visiting with the folks there, we observed that they had a lot of issues, but a lot of those issues they could probably address themselves. And so we started talking to them about that, and then we got together with them in the library once a week to start talking about how they could help each other to achieve some of their goals or overcome some of their problems. One of the first things that came up was that was the transportation issue. Transportation was a big problem because the buses always didn't run when they wanted and where they wanted, and so they decided that those of us who had cars, those of the homeless who had cars, could possibly give rides to those that didn't. And so that was their first chance to help each other to solve some of their problems. The next one is in the slide that you're seeing there, was that when somebody from the homeless community was able to obtain housing, they would come into an empty apartment. All of their funds that they had were gone, and they opened the door to their new apartment, and there was nothing, no couches, no tables, no chairs, no dishes, no anything. And so they talked about, well, how could we solve that problem? And so we connected them with a bunch of people in the community who were moving or another or downsizing and had furniture that they wanted to donate. And so we organized the homeless members of the community to help with loading up this furniture and bringing it over to the people who just got apartments. And so you see the picture there. This was some of the United Way and some of our homeless people helping load up a mattress to go to an apartment. Next, there we go. We also going to run through these slides really fast because we have done a lot of things that were kind of fun. This was our teddy bear giveaway, and where we gave away teddy bears during the Laundry Love time. This is a program that they said, well, we are having a hard time getting jobs. We want to really work. And so one of the stereotypes is that homeless people or people that are unsheltered don't want to work. And when we gave them the opportunity, this is a farm, one of these organic type farmers that needs to have all their weeds pulled by hand, and so they can't use chemicals. And so they said, do you have people out here? And of course, the homeless can't get jobs because they don't either have IDs, or they don't have an address, they don't have a phone number, they don't have a computer. And so it's very hard for them to break into the job market. So these cash jobs are real important to them. And we went to the Salvation Army and got about 20 or so people involved in going out to that farm to pull weeds, and they worked hard for months and made themselves some good money. Another thing we do is that you see there is this gentleman mowing the lawn. As we say, well, if you can't find a job, make a job. And so this guy decided to go into business for himself, mowing lawns. And so we helped him get started with that. Next. We have a Coats for Kids program that this is last fall, where they all of these kids got some free coats. Next. COVID came along and disrupted everything. We couldn't collect furniture or deliver furniture because people didn't want other people in their houses. It wrecked the ride share program. Everything was topsy-turvy. It also upset the homeless people's lives. All of a sudden, all of the food options disappeared. Used to be that there were a lot of community meals being offered by shelters and churches all around town. Those all had to close. A lot of the food shelves shut down for a while. All of the restaurants shut down. And all of a sudden, the homeless were faced with no food. And whoops, you went backwards. So we, in conjunction with Neighbors to Friends, started passing out food at Lake George. Here's one of our shopping trips with some of our homeless people and our volunteers. bringing food, buying food at the store. And here they are lined up at Lake George, socially distanced and getting fed, where before there wasn't much food out there for them. This is another picture of one of the tables that where we pass out the food. So we give them each a hot meal, a hot sandwich. Some of them donated, and yeah, you can keep going. Yeah, and this was the one that we opened up on the east side. We now have it in 3 locations: Lake George, Heritage Park, and on the east side. And the one on the east side decided to get creative and call this place the Snack Shop. And it's open for a half hour every day, 7 days a week. At Lake George, it's open for an hour, and then Heritage is half an hour. And this is one of the homeless guys there that are manning the food giveaway. So we involve not just us giving stuff to the people on the street, it's the people on the street helping themselves to help each other. Next. Okay, then we have people that are in the encampments. And of course, unfortunately, this last week, we learned that the encampment that was over at Heritage Park is going to be closed down, a place to shelter, or had very few choices to shelter. I shouldn't say no other place, but had very few places to shelter, except if they set up a tent outside. And so this is not the preferable solution. And last winter we had people that suffered frostbite. And of course, it's very difficult to live through Minnesota winters with in a tent. And so one of the solutions that we came up with now is the warming center. It was determined that what we needed was a warm place for people to go when the temperatures got below 32 degrees. Frostbite is not nice. It's very painful. People lose limbs. We've already had people lose 5 toes this year just from that little cold snap we had earlier in the year. And 2 people went in with frostbite and 1 with hypothermia. So it's like a very serious kinds of thing. One of the things that, let me see here, underlines really the need for the warming center is that I was driving around. I had done the food pass out and had some leftover burgers. And so I generally just drive around town and try and find somebody who might need them. And I found a guy outside of the Salvation Army. And I asked if he had gotten fed, and he said, no. So I gave him the burgers. And then I asked, well, where are you going to sleep tonight? And this was one of those very cold days. He says that he was going to be okay, he thought, because he was going to sleep in an ice machine. And one of those ice coolers where, you get bags of ice cubes, was unplugged and not being used. And that's what's going to be his shelter for the night. We need to do better than that. And so we've gotten together with NAACP, and and we are renting this place on the east side on Lincoln Avenue, 630. And that's where it should be open this week, hopefully. And that's where we're going to have the warming center open up. And so we'll have that in addition to all of the other kinds of things that we do. We also have a hotel program. If a person wants to contact us, you can see on the screen there our address and our contact information. And we have a need for about $3,000 a month for our rent and utilities, and some staffing money and some funding for furnishings. We have room for about 20 people in there, and we are housing about is 80 people in the hotels. We also have gotten a grant to put people in hotels, and so we do that. From the city gave us that grant, so we take care of that as well. So that's what Homeless Helping Homeless does. Do we have questions? Is that
Thank you
point?
so much, Harry and Mary, for
Or Ed?
what you do. And, you know, we talk a lot about how during COVID, so many businesses, individuals, organizations have had to pivot. And when I look at what you guys have accomplished and how you have met the needs, you are the picture of pivot, I think. So if there's one thing that you could add to the services that you provide, what would that be?
Holy cow. I think we need more housing in the city of St. Cloud. I think we don't have enough low-income housing. It's not something that I can provide, but I think it's something the community can provide. You know, Homeless Helping Homeless is not just the unsheltered, and it's not just Harry and Mary. It's the whole community, and I think we got to all put our heads together and figure out how we can provide more shelter for folks, not just warming centers, not just homeless centers, homeless shelters like the Salvation Army and Place of Hope, who do wonderful work, but people need a real dignified place to live. They need their own apartments. They need their own places they can have their stuff without having to, you know, deal with a lot of other people telling them, oh no, you got too much, or you got to leave now, your time is up, and all this kind of stuff. I think they need stability. I think, but if there are no apartments to move into, this is a real issue. And so we need to promote more low-income housing and overcome the resistance to having low-income housing in people's neighborhoods.
The warming house that you have there, how many people will it hold?
Okay, the one that we've got on Lincoln Avenue there will hold about 20 people in a night. That's very temporary shelter. It's only meant for when it's below 32 degrees and be a permanent place to live. And so there's going to be an additional one maybe that the NAACP is working with us on over in another location. But these places are not the solution, but they certainly are the immediate. You know, everything is immediate when you're homeless. You know, you're living very much in the moment. Where am I going to eat in the next hour? Where am I going to sleep tonight? How in the world am I going to stay warm? It's supposed to go below zero. These are things that have to be decided right now and today. And so we're trying to fill that spot.
Great, thank you. Daniel, do you have any additional questions?
Carol, I think both United Way and, if I'm right, the Community Foundation has made COVID relief grants to help support Homeless Helping Homeless.
Yes, they have. Thank you very much, incidentally.
They need all the help they can get. I know that the Salvation Army and Place of Hope have waiting lists. The shelters are full. We have seen an increase in the community of individuals not able to double up because of COVID, either sharing space inside houses or couches, or friends and family not as welcoming due to health concerns. So the need is only increasing in the community. I also want to say I got to experience Homeless Helping Homeless in person. A year ago, I was running some United Way donated items to a family that one of our resource navigators had pointed out just arrived in town, got an apartment, and literally had nothing in it. No food, not one piece of furniture. As I got out of the car with my daughter to bring some boxes in, 4 gentlemen came rushing out of the van with a mattress and boxes. And I will say it was not just inspiring to see the family's reaction, but the dignity with which these men felt empowered, who were previously homeless, and the pride they felt in helping this family. The discussion I heard as we were leaving was how they were going to pool their food stamps to support the family and who was going to make a run and fill the freezer and the fridge. They were helping with the front door and assembling the beds. I was just so proud to see that and so proud of the dignity and empowerment that Homeless Helping Homeless provides. Way to go, Harry Mary.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And
Thank you.
we need to head off, Daniel, and get to our last place.
We do. And I don't know about you, Carol, but I find there's plenty of negative news these days, and I find myself battling fatigue and unhappiness, and I could use a real feel-good story. How about you?
Absolutely.
All right, well then we're gonna head to the northeast corner of St. Cloud to the Tri-County Humane Society. And we're gonna be met by Vicky there. So Vicky, come aboard.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
All right, good. Daniel, I think you also need a cat besides a feel-good story. And I can set you up with that.
My daughter's looking for dogs, so.
Okay, well, we have those too. I just have a few more cats. But so if I can get my first slide up, I'll show you our path of growth. There we are. So there's our humble beginnings on the top left from 1976. It was a renovated gas station. And then we got a real animal shelter in 1989 and pretty much outgrew that building. So then we jumped into our new and improved shelter that we are in now and have been there for a little over a month or 2 months. And that's where we are. We have 7,000 square feet in the old building and 14,000 square feet in this one. And let's see, we started this endeavor about 10 years ago. We finally broke ground. Well, actually, Roger, the black lab, broke ground for us. We buried his tennis ball and he dug and dug until he found it. We called that our groundbreaking ceremony. So that was about a year ago. And then COVID hit. So we were deemed essential due to our contracts with the to house strays with several municipalities, St. Cloud for one. And we had to be available for them and also for the people to pick up their strays. And even if we wouldn't have been doing that, we still had to be coming down and be open to take care of the animals. So not being able to continue surgeries at that time period when it was deemed that they were halted, that didn't come as much of a challenge at the time until we had to catch up with those surgeries. And normally we have 240 surgeries a month. So when we were out 6 weeks, you can imagine how many we had to catch up on and try to wiggle those into our normal schedule. So that took us about 4 months to do. And then staff created an adoption or an appointment system to manage the traffic. And we had people coming in by appointment to look at animals, people coming in by appointment to bring animals in. And I can say about 9 out of 10 of our appointments resulted in an adoption. And while some shelters had to close, I think that's why the national average of adoptions went down. Ours went up and we were up about 5%, which I think was remarkable, seeing as how we're doing it one person at a time. Our first events coordinator was hired in February. And she probably didn't realize that as she got on board that in a month her job was going to take quite the turn. But virtual events did much better than I thought they were going to. Silent auctions, I think, answered a shopping fix for many people. So any of our events that had a silent auction attached to it, I think did, or I know did very well. And next slide. So COVID didn't care if we had a building to finish or not. But come September, after several delays, we did move in, excuse me, and we opened September 10th. Next slide. Some of our challenges. We had to be mindful of social distancing. So we found ourselves with half the volunteers we normally had in the old building, and now we have twice as much square footage. So that was interesting. And we're still fundraising for this new shelter. We have 1.7 left out of a $4 million budget to go. And everybody knows that the charitable dollars there's a lot of competition for them, but maybe you didn't know that only 3% of the charitable dollars goes to environment and animals. So that can be even more of a challenge for us. And let's see, some of the things that we miss and used to do and are on hold would be book buddies. And that's where kids come in and read to the dogs and cats and rabbits. Those were my favorite programs. And we have birthday parties for kids, although there's been a few adults known to have a birthday party too. Humane education programs, offsite adoption events. We used to do our own bulk mailing, but now we have to pay to have that done. And other crowd raising or crowd-based events like Summertime by George. We miss doing those things, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that. And let's see, I think the next slide can go. So how you can help. Well, 3 of my favorite words: adopt, donate, and volunteer. As I mentioned, we have a lot of cats. So if you need to know this to tell other people, that would be great. Cats over 6 months of age are free to senior citizens or veterans. And unemployed barn cats are available for a name your price promotion. Of course, donate. Our bequest and reserve funds are being used to bridge the gap of our missing donation income. And volunteer. While we may not be able to get a lot of people in the building to volunteer, there's lots of other things you can do. And one of the things at home would be to foster and socialize cats and kittens that come in that really aren't ready to just plop into somebody's home. They need a little attention. They need to get to know that people are good. Next slide. And that kind of wraps me up there. Thanks for inviting me on the bus tour. I did send a little short tour of our new building, which maybe you can put on now as my wrap up. Can't wait till everybody can come visit without a mask and without an appointment.
Vicki, before we go to the video, just a couple questions.
Sure.
I had read that there is a large increase in pets being adopted during COVID because of social emotional needs. Can you tell us, have you experienced that or seen that?
We have. Our adoptions have been up. And it's hard because we have more people calling to try to get an appointment than we're able to satisfy. But it's been very successful. I think people finding themselves at home so much, they either needed the companionship for when they weren't working, if they're working from home, or just to have somebody else in the apartment or house.
And are there some things that because of COVID and the social distancing that you've had to change that you can see that going forward you'll continue implementing? Or do you plan on going back to the old way of doing things?
Well, we've always continued or always had appointments for bringing animals in. That just help so that we didn't have a whole bunch coming in all at once. But I'm really looking forward to not having the appointments for adoption, that people can freely come in and maybe just visit the animals. I'm trying to think of what we would hang on to, and really nothing's coming to mind right now.
I imagine it's been a big change when you've got a new building, and there's been plenty of change from the old way just in that experience alone.
It is. I'm anxious to have an open house someday.
That's great. Daniel, do you have any questions before we go to video, or you want to say them until after?
Now, Vicki, is it true that if people type their address into the chat that you'll deliver a cat to everyone tomorrow?
Oh, Santa's on its way, yes.
Okay, make sure you put quantity because they have a lot to get rid of, and those barn cats looking for a new home, everybody.
Well, we have a live feed on our website, so bookmark our website for your daily entertainment and see who's new and who's going home at the shelter.
Great. Well, let's roll the video and then we'll say a quick goodbye afterwards.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the bus tour. We're going to give you a quick look at Tri-County Humane Society. First, our front desk. Hi, everyone. And we're going to stop back at the cat room later, but first we're going to see the doggies. Look how big it is. Look at all this room for dogs. Kennel space like crazy. Once we get all our kennel doors, we'll be able to house up to 40 dogs. Hi,
It's okay if he comes.
All the doggies puppies getting ready for their walks. We get them out on 3 walks a day. And we are so excited to have much more space for them. As you can see, I'm gonna run out of breath here. So much more space. This is the meet and greet room where they can meet their new families. And we're gonna go into the cat room. Giant cat room. Cats as far as the eye can see. And we are lucky enough to have multiple colony rooms. Vicki, get back to work. No, she's having fun with these guys.
Yes, what's that?
Oh, look at them. That's 7 kittens all at once. Pretty darn cute. Not just 1, but 3 colony rooms where cats can be cats. Hi, guys. Well, they don't feel social this morning. That's okay. All these cats. Sadie and Sasha, say hello to the bus tour, guys. You just woke up, right? They say thank you for considering helping us. Even more cats and kittens. Kitten season never seems to stop here. And we have small animals. So we hope you can come by and visit in person someday. Bye-bye.
Wow. I'm kind of having an urge for a cat.
Just one?
Well, thanks for all that you do.
Thank you.
Sounds like you can get anything, a cat, a dog, a bunny. I saw birds. It's just amazing.
And watch that website.
Absolutely. Daniel, closing thoughts.
Well, that was just the right jolt of happiness I needed. Thank you, Vicki. Thank you to Harry and Mary, to Buddy and James for all you're doing to serve people, to uplift our spirits, and to let us know how we can support you. As always, we're so thankful for everyone on this call, caring about the need, providing support to those who are doing the great work, and giving them the resources so they can help.
Absolutely. Thank you all for attending again today. And please reach out to any one of these 3 nonprofits if you can volunteer or provide items or make a donation to them. And then let Daniel and I know if there are places that you've heard of that's doing great work that you think should be on a future bus tour. So we always are ready to load people up and share the good work that's going on in this community.
Great. All right, everyone have a great night. And as always, thank you, Community Foundation, for our great partnership with United Way. Take care, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.